Hey, shalom. Most High Christ bless. Back again with another video. And today's video is going to be a heavy topic, very controversial in the Israelite community. For all you 12 tribe chart people that want to go contrary to the doctrine, we're going to provide proof. And let me say this before I start. I'm going to provide source material, not just arguments. I'm going to provide factual evidence within this presentation so the laity, the viewer at home, can go back and fact check and look this stuff up themselves. So for the people that really want to learn, you are in the right place today. Subscribe to my channel, Genesis 49ers, for more videos that are similar, that are packed with sources. No more vague descriptions. We're through with vague descriptions. We are here to educate and to edify our people, which are the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, okay? You are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. And I make videos for my brothers that are in the African continent. Guess what? I make videos for my brothers that are in the country of Russia, the Asian continent, Europe, okay? My research is not biased or predicated upon one continent, okay? The Israelites are scattered all over. But according to Genesis 49, Genesis 49, a large section of Israelites, or a large populace of Israelites, if you will, would migrate to what we know as the Americas, according to scriptures. All right, so that's what we're dealing with. That's what the 12 tribes chart is dealing with. So without further ado, let's commence. As you can see, Issachar, but this is going to be dealing with Issachar and Zebulun. All right, Issachar, Genesis 49. Let's get it. First slide, Mexica. Now the country Mexico, the word Mexico is Hebrew. It's a bastardization of the original tongue of the Nahuatl, or Nahuatl, Mexica. All right, Mexica, spoken tongue. You can see right there the source. The words of Jesus in the original Aramaic is detailed biblical and historical account of the original message preached by who? Yeshua Mexica, because Mexica means anointed. Like Mashiach, Mexica, and the Aramaic means anointed. And that's what the land of Mexico was called, Mexica. Okay, and that's what the people and polity thereof were called. And that source is the words of Jesus in the original Aramaic by S. Mystic. Second source, Europe into the European peoples. Mexican and Chicano, on the other hand, are American terms referring to the ancient Nahuatl Aztec people. Mexica, pronounced what? Mexica, which means anointed in the Aramaic. It's a Hebrew word. That's a Hebraic affinity right there. Native American in the 20th century by Mary B. Davis. I provide sources for y'all, so the viewer at home can fact check. Next slide. Aztec. The word Aztec comes from the Hebrew Az. H227 is where you can locate that in the Strong's. H stands for Hebrew, and it's referring to time, a disposition of time. Teka, okay, Azteca, or the Azteca, okay, in the Nahuatl language, or the Nahuatl, however you pronounce it, however you want to pronounce it. It says a camp or people of, and 8497 is where you can find it in the Strong's. I'm giving you the location where to find this at. So the literal translation of the word Aztec is the people of time. Period. 1 Chronicles 12, verse 32 in your King James Version Bible. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of times. Now, what does the word Aztec mean again? What does it translate to? The people of time. To know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. This was manifested. You can clearly see the Aztecs have a clear understanding of times, geodetic position of stars and stuff like that, and of that nature. Astrology, right? Because you have to understand astrology to understand time. Like, where do we get the 24-hour concept from? We count each hour of the sun. It's the sun's in the middle of the sky at noon, so that'd be the 6th hour of the day. It sets 6 more hours. That's how they get it, by understanding astrology, stars, and stuff like that. The month according to the moon, etc. Let's keep going. The Hab. Here we got the Hab, right? Which is the Mayan calendar. It says there has been a great deal of speculation about the origins and basis of the 260-day cycle. Some scholars believe it's based on some astronomical cycle or on a human gestation cycle, but it's also possible that it's simply the result of using important numbers, 13. There are 13 levels in the heavens, and 20 Mesoamericans all use vigesimal or base 20 count system. The earliest known representation of this cycle comes from the Zapotec site of San Jose Mogote and Valley of Oaxaca at around 500 BC. Now, that's important because around 500 BC, that's what we date when the Israelites started, migrating over here in great numbers. After we were granted amnesty and emancipated, if you will, by the Persians. Okay, by King Cyrus. But let's keep going on. It says the 260-day ritual calendar continues to be used in some Maya communities today. The 365-day calendar is also called the solar cycle or the solar calendar. The Yucatec Maya called it Hab, the Aztecs Xiutu, and the Zapotecs Yiza. It is similar to our own 365-day annual calendar. So they had this years prior. Before it was more accurate than the Gregorian calendar or the Julian calendar. Okay? So before the European came up with their update calendars, they had this already. All right? It is similar to our own 365-day annual calendar, although we add a day every 4 years, except for century years that are not divisible by 400, to account for the fact that the Earth's rotation actually takes 365, 5 hours, and 48 minutes. In the Mesoamerican solar year, there were 18 named months, each with 20 days, plus an additional 5 period to complete the 365-day cycle. The Aztecs understood this. The Mayans understood this. Okay? Why? Because of the prophecy. 1 Chronicles 12:32. The Issachar will be a man that will understand time. There will be men that understood the times and know what Israel ought to do. And that's the book I got it from right there at the bottom of the screen. Archaeology of Ancient Mexico and Central America and Encyclopedia. Okay, so that's your source. Next slide. Oaxaca or Oaxaca, right? I'm going to prove to you that that name is the name Issachar. The O, when you read Spanish codices, they replace a lot of letters to make it easier for them to pronounce in the Spanish tongue. So the O, when you see an O in a Spanish codex, it stands for wa. You make the wa sound. When you see an X, it stands for sha, sha. So really what you're looking at, Oaxaca, is Oaxaca, period. Okay? In South America, you have Oaxacar. Okay, and he was a famous king in the Inca kings list. Okay, Kichi. And then you can see I got the Hebrew right there. Oaxacar means wages are higher. Okay? Wages are higher. And you can see, we know what the word Issachar means. He is hired. Okay, our wages, right? We understand that. You can get that understanding from Genesis, the 30th chapter, when they were being named. So when you see to the right, we have a source here. It says the Mexicans are originally of the 10 tribes captured by Salamanzar and of the family of Issachar, whom the Indians recognize as their special ancestor. When I first came upon this information in the book Origins of the American Indians, compiled by Lee Huddleston, page 88, when I first came across this information, I was like, where is the name Issachar within the Indian dialect? Okay, and that's how I stumbled upon Oaxaca and was able to break it down through the Spanish codices. Okay, understand that. My scholarship is not limited by the English paradigm. Let's get that straight, because I got a Spanish quote in here as well. We're going to get to it later. So that was a quote by Balthasar, a chronicler at that time, okay, of this discovery of Mexico. let's keep going. Next slide. Genesis 49. I know a lot of our people have already heard this scripture, but we're going to break it down, and we're going to give you a thorough breakdown. Genesis 49, verse 14. Issachar is a strong ass. The ass or donkey has long been a symbol of Mexican life. Okay, here's the Mexican quote, or here's the Spanish quote. De hecho, refanero, frecuente relación, indio y burro. Okay, so what it's saying is, in fact, there's a saying that frequently relates the Mexican Indians or the original indigenous people to the burro or the donkey. That's a saying in Mexico. And the source of refanero mexicano, meaning the sayings of Mexico, are the Mexicans by Herón Pérez Martínez. You see that? So that's actually a saying, okay? That's colloquial in the sayings of the Mexicans, that the Indians are compared to the burro, okay? And they call them burro mexicanos. And you can see to the right the image, Baba Louie. This is from a cartoon, Quick Draw McGraw, a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and they depicted the Mexican as a what? A burro, all right? Next slide. Okay, this is not hard. Mexicans work more than you. Now, they would compare to the burro. Why? Because burro is a servile animal. They work very hard. They're pack mules, so on and so forth. So that's what the Lord was using this metaphor as an analogy to show that Issachar would be very hard workers. Mexico works more than you and everyone else in the world. Shows by James King, and I think that was from the Phoenix Times. Who works the longest? Total minutes, paid, unpaid per day. And you can see to the far right of this chart on your screen that Mexico is surpassing every other country. And how long they work, unpaid hours. They work harder than the Japanese, y'all. They work harder than the Chinese, y'all. The Mexicans are the hardest working. I got that from LA Weekly. Next slide. Genesis 49:14 again. Couching down between two burdens. He'd be a strong ass couching down between two burdens. Ancient Mexico was named Anahuac. Anai meaning bowed down in Hebrew. 86031. Tawak meaning midst or between. 8432. So Anahuac means bowed down between. And Nahuatl, between two waters. That's what it means. According to the Targum, the phrase between two burdens can be rendered between two water trolls. So it's the same exact meaning. Okay? And I use rabbinical literature to back that up as well. I'm telling y'all, my research is not confined or in a box. All right? So you can clearly see the distinction between the two. Genesis 49 verse 14, couch down between two birds, will let you know that the tribe of Issachar will be in between, it will be in the middle, or Mesoamerica. Okay? And you can see the burros with the two water packs on their back, because that was another thing you used the burro for, to travel with water. Okay? They carry the water because that stuff gets heavy. Genesis 49 verse 15 now. And he saw rest was good. And we already know the Mexicans are famous for that. A popular image, siesta man, depicting a Mexican taking a midday nap. Easy. Okay, so we prove that they fit the strong aspect of the scripture. They fit the between the two burdens aspect of the scripture, and they fit the siesta. He saw rest was good. The siesta man. Okay, and they used to say, oh, they're lazy. No, maybe they're taking midday naps because they work so damn hard. You know, Esau and his media, man. Next slide. Verse 15 again, in the land that it was pleasant. This is why tourism is such a huge industry in Mexico. It's a diverse land, complete with beaches, mountains, jungles, ruins, nature reserves, etc. Examples, Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Mazunte, etc. And to the right, we have an image of Acapulco, the beautiful scenery right there. So we can clearly see that they fit that part of the prophecy as well. They fit in all these parts of the prophecy, man. This is not suspicion, okay? We can clearly see who the tribe of Issachar is. Genesis 49, verse 15. And bowed his shoulder to bear and became tribute. And I have a source here to the right, okay? It says the Toltec, I have told the story of the Mayans. They were the first and greatest of race waves of which we find record we find record that swept southward down the full length of Mexican plateau. Others may have preceded them. We do not know. We have not yet found traces to tell. 3 more ways of separate racial life were to follow. First of these was the Toltec. Of this people little is known. They left slight traces, like Isaac in the biblical story. He was a weak man standing between 2 that were strong. Before him was Abraham, a strong man. After him was Jacob, a strong man. These men left records. Isaac left little. Before the Toltec was the Mayan. After him the Aztec. The racial problem has been what became of the Toltec. The answer is found in the 27 tributary provinces held by the Aztecs at the time of the Spanish conquest. He did not go on like Issachar. He bowed his neck to the yoke and paid tribute. A conqueror does not so make subjects of his own race. It is the conquered who serve and pay tribute. So he's showing you how this scripture correlates with the original inhabitants of Mexico and when the conquistadors came. Watch. It is the conqueror who served and paid tribute. A noteworthy fact enforces and confirms this view of the fate of the Toltecs, the apathy of the provinces when the Aztec rulers were assailed by the Spanish. This helps to explain the comparative ease with which the Aztec overthrow was accomplished. There was no rallying to a national defense. They either stood aloft or, as the Tlaxcalans, joined with the conquistadors in the overthrow of their oppressors. Issachar was avenged, yet he was not freed. He still abides in the land, only now he is serf to the conquistador. He is the man who tills the soil and tends to the flocks and the herds of the Mexican plateau. Page 206 of The 3 Americas, The Racial Past and Dominant Racial Factors of Their Future by Joseph Whitney, page 206. Okay? So, you guys are just nope, we got scholarly works proving this stuff. There's your source. Next slide. Tula or Tola is a son of Issachar and a famous judge by the same name. I believe Judges 10 talks about Tola the judge, and Genesis 30, I think it's 36, talks about the names, and 1 Chronicles 7 talk about the names of the sons of Issachar, and one of them is Tola, okay, which became the Tolites or the Toltec people of Mesoamerica. And as you can see, Tola 8438. That's how you locate it in the Strongs. And Taka or Taka 8497. Voila, Toltec, the people of Tola. Okay, so you can see the Hebraic affinity there as well, and their connection to their forefathers. Next slide. Zebulon. Right? Let's get into Zebulon now. All right, now here's the big controversy with Zebulon. Oh, it says, his border shall be unto Zion. We're going to read it with understanding. Genesis 49, verse 13. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and she shall be for a haven of ships, and his border shall be and he shall be for a haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zion. Excuse the syntax. So, when people read this, this has to be, first of all, the original borders of Zion, okay, Israel wouldn't be, the northern kingdom wouldn't be in that land, not in totality. Now we know a remnant stayed. So that can't be referring to the Middle East no more, okay? This is parabolic talk, metaphoric talk. But let's go there for a minute. And to the right, you can see the banner. Next slide. Carthage. Yeah, you're reading it right. We're going to go into the history of the Carthaginians real quick. A brief history of them. The voyage of the Phoenicians. Diodorus Siculus relates that the Phoenicians discovered a large island in the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, several days' journey from the coast of Africa. This island abounded in all manners of riches. The soil was exceedingly fertile. The scenery was diversified by rivers, mountains, and forests. It was the custom of the inhabitants to retire in the summer to a magnificent country houses, which stood in the midst of the beautiful gardens. Fish and game were found in great abundance. The climate was delicious, and the trees bore fruit in all seasons of the year. The Phoenicians discovered the Fortune Island by accident, being driven on its coast by contrary winds, which that part, pause, sidebar, that part goes with the Paribas stone, which they said that they were stranded out there in South America. But nonetheless, that's another topic. Let's read on. On their return, they gave glowing accounts of its beauty and fertility. And the Tyrians, who were also noted sailors, desired to colonize it. Now, the Tyrians are the Hamites, right? But the Senate of Carthage opposed their plan, either through jealousy and a wish to keep a commercial benefit that might be derived from it for themselves, or as Diodorus relates, because they wished to use it as a place of refuge in a case of necessity. And that's what we want to use Arsarith, or another land, for, a place of refuge, okay? And you can see that's recorded history. Diodorus Siculus is a historian, okay, a renowned historian. The native races of the Pacific states of North America. I believe he goes back to the 5th century BC. I could be wrong. Could be the 4th or 3rd century. But you can see the source right there. All right, next page. Why am I bringing up Carthage? Because the Israelites were, and they still are to this day, in parts of Africa. No one's denying that. I know my brothers over there, Igbos. I was acquainted with an Igbo brother. You know, shout out to that brother. Salute to him if he's watching the video. Okay, the Yoruba tribe, you know, the Jews of Morocco. You know, matter of fact, my channel is composed and filled with Israelites from Africa videos. The Cape Verdeans, check that out. Israelites from Africa, Timbuktu. That's another one, Liberia. Check those videos out. I got more videos to explain and bring out and expound upon the Israelites in Africa. Right? So next slide. I'm bringing this out because Zebulon was, and he still is, in parts of Africa. No one's denying that. But watch this. Carta. It says, and unto the families of the children of Merari, the rest of the Levites out of the tribe of Zebulun, Jokneam with her suburbs, and Cartha with her suburbs. What Cartha means new city. That's where you get the word Carthage from. Joshua 21 and 34. Here's a quote here, and within the quote you see the sources, so there was no need to put it in the bottom of the screen. It says another topic of interest is William's identification of Carthage, the land of the great general Hannibal, as being heavily Jewish. And quoting Sidney Mendelssohn, we learned there is an old tradition among the nomadic tribes of Tunisia that the Jews settled in the country before the destruction of the first temple. And although this statement has been sometimes regarded as unfounded, there can be little doubt that a colony existed in Carthage soon after the building of the city. And quoting Nahum Slush, that's another source, there are indications, and he has a book called The Travels in Africa that was released in the early 1900s. There are indications in the Bible, as well as works of ancient writers and in the Phoenician inscriptions discovered from time to time, that numbers of Hebrew settlers or slaves followed the Phoenicians in the excursions across the Mediterranean. Adding that inscriptions indicate that certain tribes of Asher and Zebulun lived in Carthage ever since the foundation of the city. Page 189 of his work. You see what I'm saying? So, why is this important? Because Carthage was a major ship port, which fits that prophecy. Okay? We're going to continue on. The Carthaginians also spoke Hebrew, again quoting Slush. Nearly 4,000 inscriptions in the ancient tongue of Canaan have been unearthed in the city of Carthage, dating from the days of Nehemiah, of Simon the Just, of Hannibal, of Hasdrubal, and most valuable of all, we have found again an ancient language written of Canaan, the rich idiomatic speech of a city which once counted 700,000 inhabitants. And we Hebrew writers, we who write and feel in our biblical tongue, have recognized at once that the so-called Phoenician language is nothing less than a pure Hebrew dialect, nearly the same as spoken in the country of Israel in the days before the Aramaic. And that's how Jacob, was it Jacob and Laban? Or Abraham. But he was speaking to somebody speaking the language of Canaan, which was what we call Phoenician. He was speaking in Hebrew, and they could dialogue back to each other with each other, because the ease of understanding each other's language, just like Portuguese and Spanish, they're very similar. Well, Brazilian Portuguese and Mexican Spanish is very similar, so you're able to pick up certain idioms within that tongue. All right, it says, it says, nearly the same as spoken in the country of Israel in the days before the Aramaic, before the Masorah came to fix its orthographic rules artificially. And even more revealing, Slush affirms the population of Carthage was Palestinian in origin and Hebraic in civilization. And if, instead of succumbing, the city of Hannibal had triumphed over Rome, it is probable, nay, almost certain, that the Hebrew and not Latin would have become the dominant language of the Mediterranean countries. Okay. So, you can clearly see the sources are there showing that Zebulon was in that land of Carthage. It was a haven of ships, but we know that place fell, okay? But that is talking about a certain epoch of time when we was there. It's still Zebulon over there in Africa. It's still Asher over there. It's still some over there. But a mass majority came to the Americas, which we're going to prove, right? Carta. From Tyre to Carthage, the nations know Israel and their Father who is in heaven. But from Tyre westward from Carthage eastward, the nation knows neither. That's from Rabbi Isaac, okay, from the rabbinical literature. So Israel was in Carthage, which was a haven of ships. Zidon, question mark, because a lot of people are still stuck on Zidon. Genesis 49, verse 13. Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for a haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. This is parabolic and metaphorical, right? But we already covered the history of Carthage, right? Which fell, in the 1st century BC? Or the 2nd century, around there. Job 11:6. Watch this. And that he would show the secrets of wisdom. Genesis 49 is a secret of wisdom. It's a parable. It's prophetic, right? That they are double to that which is. So what you see, right, which is Zidon, but that's double. Zidon just means to catch fish. Where do you catch fish? It's a saying, colloquial term at that time, to catch fish. You catch fish at the sea, right? So with that being said, excuse the interruption. With that being said, that fits the Mayan culture as well, because they were a haven of ships and they had a lot of maritime trade within the Mesoamerican and Caribbean, circum-Caribbean areas, right? Just like Tyre and Zidon was famous for that, okay? Even today, the Panama Canal being something that the whole world had to depend on getting goods from the east to the west, right? And that's how Tyre and Zidon was. It was very important to the the Mediterranean world. With that being stated, we brought out the Carthage information, which is accurate and true. But we also have to understand that the native Indians came over, the Israelites came over here from the east, which we're about to get into, and populated and inhabit the land, what we call the Americas, right? So Deuteronomy 33:17. So Genesis 49:13, that's a parable, man. It has double meaning. But let's get into Deuteronomy 33:17. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. Where is the ends of the earth? The Western Hemisphere, okay? America. Okay, because they already knew about Shinar, which is what we call China. They already knew about Europe. They already knew about Africa, which was all those lands were already inhabited, okay? And it says to the ends of the earth. And we know, because Hanno the general, which also is a Carthaginian, he circumnavigated the continent of Africa. So they knew about the people living all around Africa, okay? They knew about these things and they recorded it. So what is this end of the earth? It's not Africa. Africa is like in the middle, okay? It's not the end of the earth. The end of the earth is the Americas, okay? And they are the 10,000 Ephraim and they are the thousands of Manasseh. That's why you get the Mapuche Indian word, which I covered in one of my prior videos, denoting the end of the earth, which is Chile. The Mapuche word Chile means the end of the earth. And that's what they speculate or, postulate that the word Chile means. It comes from that Indian word, which that's highly likely because a lot of these country names come from quote unquote Indian words. Next slide. Let's go to the book of Ezra real quick. 2nd Ezra 13, verse 41 in the Apocrypha says, "But they took counsel among themselves that they would lead the multitude of the heathen." So a lot of people saying also it's Africa or India or Turkey or whatever. How is that so? They was leaving the multitude of the heathen, not joining or being close neighbors to them. Okay, that's why you got to understand that Zion, that's metaphoric talk. That's a double meaning there. Okay. They were leaving the multitude of the heathen. They were not going to Africa. Arsuf, not Africa. Now, there's Israelites in Africa, no doubt. There's Israelites in Turkey, no doubt. Russia, no doubt. Shinar, no doubt. The scriptures tell you that. The Shindai, the origins of the Shindai, or the tradition of the Shindai, they went into China and Japan. We understand that. But we're talking about Arsuf, a land that Ephraim will push to the ends of the earth, which is none of those lands. Okay, and they would lead them to the heathen. The only place that fits that description is the Americas. Okay, uninhabited land, not known to man. So it said that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, which would be Arsuf. It can't be Africa. The Sun people claim to be the oldest. Well, they claim that the Sun people of South Africa have been inhabiting that forever. You know what I'm saying? They've been there. You know, they've been inhabiting that land forever. The Canaanites going into Africa, going into the western parts of Africa. We read earlier about Carthage. They knew about Carthage. Carthage was developed around 8th century BC. So we're not talking about the continent of Africa. You had Seba, you had Lud, where they put in Libya. Okay, we're not talking about those regions because they wanted to get away from where mankind dwelt. This is simple. This has to be America. Next slide. So Zebulon would be in the New World, as we call it. And the Maya, they believe, they have in their what you call mythologies of Zebulon, a deified, it says Zebulon and a Zebulon was a deified ancestor of the Kichi Maya. Zebulon and Zebulon are one and the same. Okay. 2 Kings 23, verses 16 to 20, Josiah destroying the sepulchres and bones. Why? Because they were worshiping their ancestors. They were worshiping the ones that are already deceased. Ezekiel 43 and 7, nor by the carcasses of their kings in high places. The Lord said, you're not going to pollute my temples or my land no more with your worshiping of your ancestors. Okay? And to the right, we have a source. It says, as a consequence of the suppression of much of Maya culture and religion by the Spaniards, and the rarity and the incurious age of observers interested in recording their fast waning charms, uncommonly little is known of some deities and cults which were once important, but which quickly submerged beneath the incoming tide of the conquest. Among them should be numbered the gods and rites of idol makers, tattooers, merchants. Their old commerce was swept away, and warriors and lineages of nobility, as well as deified ancestors of family and perhaps clan. Sometimes merely a name remains without information as to whether it is separate deity or merely one aspect of divine power well known in some other field. With the old nobility lay low cults of their ancestors, possibly once very prominent features of Maya religion, whether on the vine. And as you can see, the Zebulon is one of those deified ancestors. If you look up the legend of Zebulon, he had a twin brother, and they go into the story about him and everything, which is the same phonetically as Zebulon. Okay, that's the source right here. Deified ancestor of the Maya. That's my note on the source. Maya History and Religion by John Eric Sidney Thompson, page 305, where you can read that. Okay, I'm gonna read the rest of that source. It says such cults did not pass into oblivion quite undefended. As late 20 years after the Spanish conquest, Maya chiefs were touring Yucatan, an underground campaign of resistance, performing pagan ceremonies and telling the people that the Roman Catholic faith, baptism, the Mass, and friars preachers meant not. Ma ben bal Christianoli. Christianity is nothing. That's what they were going around and teach. So a lot of them were preserving the ways of the Mayans. And one of those preserved deities, the ways of the Mayans, composed of what? Zebulon. Okay? Next slide. I know this is getting long, but all of this had to be stated. I had to force myself to stop adding sources and material because I was like, man, this thing is going to be 2-3 hours long if I don't, compress some of this stuff. But moving on, it says record. To the left, we're going to read from the left to the right. It said, it is clear from the foregoing extracts that the Maya of Yucatan record their history up to the time of the Spanish conquest. Remember that's important. In their hieroglyphic books or codices, which one is the Popal view. That fact is beyond dispute. It must be remembered also in this connection that the Maya of Yucatan were the direct inheritors of the older Maya civilizations in the south, which had produced the hieroglyphic monuments. For this latter reason, the writer believes that the practice of recording history in the hieroglyphic writing had its origin, along with many another custom in the southern area, and consequently that the inscriptions on the monuments of the southern cities are probably in part at least of a historical nature. Remember these things, and that's from the Introduction to the Study of the Maya Hieroglyphs, issue 57 by Sylvanus Griswold Morley, page 36. Remember that. Next quotation we have is to the right. It says, let's get straight to the point. It says, Father Ponce, who visited Yucatan as early as 1588, is equally clear. The natives of Yucatan are among all the inhabitants of New Spain, especially deserving of praise for three things. First, that before the Spaniards came, they made use of characters and letters which they wrote out their histories, their ceremonies, the order of sacrifices to their idols, and their calendars and books made of bark of a certain tree. They had books. Now, a lot of these records were burned and destroyed, but they had books and they had histories. Dr. Aguilar, who wrote but little later, 1596, gives more details as to the kind of events which were recorded. On these, the fiber books, they painted and colored the reckoning of their years, wars, pestilence, hurricanes, inundations, famines, and other events. And that's from an Introduction to the Study of Maya Hieroglyphs, issue 57 by Sylvanus Griswold Morley, page 36. Next slide. The Maya, right? Now, we just read two sources showing us that what? That the Mayans were known for their skill of recordation and writing things down and recording their history. Judges 5 verse 14. Out of Ephraim was there a root of them against Amalek. After thee, Benjamin among thy people. Out of Machir came down governors. And out of Zebulon, they that handle the pen of the writer. Don't you see how cold this Bible is and how the prophetic scriptures fit our people to the T? The Maya were known for being the handle the pen of the writer. They recorded history. Most of the recorded history is found in Mesoamerica. Why? Because of the Maya, which fits the description of Zebulon. That's why I was bringing out Genesis 49 and went to that long spill on how that's talking about the Mesoamerica. That's just in parabolic writing when it says border unto Zidon, which y'all don't understand. They fit all these characteristics. They have the ancestor Shebulon, okay, which is Zebulon. They're recorders, and we're about to get into that maritime trade, okay, being a haven of ships, the recordation, and we're about to get into some of those records. Next slide. It says Quiche. It says in a manuscript written in Quiche in 1554 by several Mayan Indians. It says this: these then were the three nations of Quiches, and where the sun rises, descendants of Israel, of the same language and the same customs. And this is from The Mystery of Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins, page 79. Okay, you can see the book to the right. So they themselves said they were descendants of Israel. Point blank. Quiche, again, in attestation of what they have written, the Indians signed a document on September 28, 1554, saying, we have written that which tradition our ancestors told us, who came from the other part of the sea, from Givon to Lun, which we already know that's Hebrew of Tula or Tola, bordering Babylonia. This was written. Why? Because the Quiche Maya were known for recording their history and knowing their history, like we read earlier from the other sources. That's why I took you that long route so you can understand all these things. All right? We're not giving vague descriptions no more. We're going to thoroughly break these tribes down. Now, You see this book to the right, The Pre-Columbian Landscapes of Creation and Origin, right? This is a book of sources. This is a bad book right here. If you want to know about their origins, purchase this book. Okay? It's going to cost you about $70, $80. So you got to be dedicated to reading like I am to really, spend that kind of money on a book. But this is what it says in page 123. All of the major Quichean sources are consistent in relating that the mythological founder fathers of the Quichean nations originated from somewhere across the sea. This is not a postulation. This is not a guess. This is according to the historical data of the Maya. Okay? According to the Popal view, the forefathers Balaam Kitse, which is Hebrew, Balaam meaning lords, Kitse means like Katsa, chief, Balaam Akab, that's Hebrew too, Mahukuta and Iki Balaam came from the Cha'aka Palo, which is across the sea. Releb al-Ki'i, where the sun emerges, that is from the east. Now, a lot of y'all talking about their Mongolians, they come from China and all that. Cool. Provide me the paperwork on that. Provide me the records of that. All Indian, majority of the Indian consensus on where they come from is from the east across the sea. Period. We just read it out of this source. That's the thing. We provide sources. Y'all provide arguments. That's the difference. With Genesis 49ers, we vow to provide you sources of where we're getting this stuff from. That's what we do. And as you can clearly see, they're showing that they have a Hebrew affinity. They come from the lands of the east. We read from Peter Tompkins' work that they came from the lands of Israel. Period. Why? Because the Quiche Maya were known for their recordation skills. Judges 5:14 tells you that Zebulon was known to have the pen of the writer, the handle of the pen of the writer. They were good for recording things. Another dagger. Well, how Sauron Soon said, that's a dagger. That's a dagger. Next slide. The wits, right? I'm going to read the scripture first, Deuteronomy 33, verse 18 to 19. And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, and thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and the treasures hidden in the sand. Now, the part we want to hone in on is they shall call the people unto the mountain. To the right, you can see the source, Pyramid Mountains. It's from the Handbook to Life in Ancient Maya, World by Lynn V. Foster, page 162. It says the modern Maya used the word wits to mean a mountain. The same word was used by the ancient Maya for what? Pyramid. The temple that normally surmounted a pyramid mountain was thought to be the place of the god. So this is where they did their worship and stuff from. Most often called Kub Nab, holy of the god house. Such homes for gods were replicated in temple architecture and incorporated into rituals in virtually all Maya cities. So where do they get this calling their pyramids mountains? Because that's where they did their worship at. It says they shall call the people unto the mountains. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness. A clear parallel. All these things I'm showing you are clear parallels. It says, blessed the mountains were considered living entities. The Maya represented mountains as zoomorphic creatures with eyes, muzzles, mouths, and ear ornaments. The stony composition of which zoomors or amongst the mountains was indicated by inscribed markers resembling bunches of grapes or clusters of small circles. Read as Maya word tomb, these markers signify stone and appear an example as of the wits zoomors. Again, Handbook of Life of Ancient Maya World by Lynn V. Forster, page 162. So you can see that they correlate mountain with pyramid. Why? Because they did the worship there and the sacrifices. Okay, now we know they went off, but the point is you can clearly see the parallel. Next slide. It says Maya terminal classic trading canoes travel from Honduras around the Yucatan Peninsula to the Gulf Coast of northern Veracruz. As the heartland weakened, the periphery grew stronger, and eventually coastal trade predominated over the classical period portage route. The maritime trade extended during the period reaching into Costa Rica and Panama for gold, copper, and silver. Terminal classic cities found opportunities through coastal trading to exchange their foodstuffs, obsidian, textiles, and precious cacao, which cutting off the heartland, and they did. So that's Hand of the Life in Ancient Maya World by Lynn V. Foster, page 66, showing that they were a haven for ships. They had maritime trade by sea, trading gold, copper, and silver, and other goods throughout the Mesoamerican region and the Caribbean region. Okay, they fit the prophecy. Last slide. This is just extra. Abar, the Hebraic affinities that you find within the lands. Maya, the word Maya is Hebrew. 4325. It's talking about water, streams, rivers, and all fits into that word. Yushab or Yashab or Yushab 3437 is Jashub. That's my name, people. Jashub means he shall return. That's Hebrew. Balaam 1169 or 1168. It means lords. Tequila, yes. Where you get the liquor name tequila from, that's actually a Nahuatl word, and it means beginning. 8462. Yucatan 3355. Joktan. Nikon or Nikon 5225 means prepared. Kitsi 7101. Kotsin or chief. Okay, and Benai, sons. Okay, so you can clearly see the Hebraic affinity. To the right, you can see the lost lunar stone with the Hebrew on it. So I pray that you brothers learned something from this presentation. I know it was long. I pray that you took notes. I pray that you wrote this down. I pray that you looked this stuff up yourself. The tribe of Issachar and the tribe of Zebulun is found in the Americas. The ancient Indian people, what you call Indians, which just means servant, they derive from these people, right? Okay. So, to recap, we went over Issachar, Oaxaca being Issachar, the Genesis 49 breakdown. Went over Zebulon, how they had the forefather Zebulon, which was a deified ancestor. They were a maritime trade people. We went over Carthage, how it was inhabited by Zebulon at a specific epoch of time. And we just covered a lot of things showing and proving with source material that these are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of, and we know what tribe they derive from. With that, I say shalom. I pray that you guys continue in your journey of learning, education, and edifying the body of Israel. More videos to come. Subscribe to Genesis 49ers. Subscribe to my page. Spread the news. Share this page. Any disputes, any comments, comment down below before the video, underneath the video. And with that, I'm going to see you guys next video.